first year in office, President Marcos Jr. has had a very busy international travel schedule. One of the most recent ones was to the United Kingdom, where he attended the coronation of His Majesty's Charles III. Many have asked questions about whether this trip was advisable. What was the sense of our president attending that coronation? After all, President Biden of the United States, many other world leaders were not actually in attendance. But from what we understand, this was a trip that was important to President Marcos Jr. for many reasons. I mean, first of all, the Marcoses and the royal family in the United Kingdom, they have a long history. President Marcos Jr. himself has a long history in the United Kingdom. He did his boarding school there. He went to Oxford. His children, a number of them also studied in the United Kingdom. So there's a lot of cultural and personal relationship with the United Kingdom. But there's a lot more to the bilateral relationship between the Philippines and the United Kingdom. For a very long time, we always want to talk about the United States, China, Japan, and powers in our neighborhood. But the United Kingdom is actually one of the permanent members of the United Nations Security Council. It still has one of the biggest economies on earth and a relatively robust finance and manufacturing sector. But the United Kingdom still has one of the biggest economies in the world. It has a robust manufacturing and, more importantly, financial sector. And increasingly, it's also flexing its muscle in this part of the world, meaning the Indo-Pacific. It's deploying more warships, it's signing new defense agreements, and it's reaching out to countries like the Philippines, which share the same democratic values and also the same strategic concerns with the rise of China. To better understand the history, the current status, and the long-term trajectory of bilateral relationship between the United Kingdom and the Philippines, especially under President Marcos Jr., we have a special guest, no less than the Ambassador of the United Kingdom, Lord Bufis, to the Philippines. Good evening, everyone. Today we're joined by Lord Bufis, His Majesty's Ambassador to the Philippines. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for joining us.
Thank you, Richard, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, of course, I almost spoke in Tagalog or Filipino because I know that's a language that you're familiar with. You seem to be one of the few ambassadors out there who's making a concerted effort to learn the language. Can you tell me about it?
Yeah, in fact, I studied Tagalog before I came here,
Right.
and it was a commitment by the Foreign Office to invest in language skills for ambassadors going overseas. I think the thinking is that languages are such an important way to establish relationships and to show that we're really serious about being here, that we're investing in the country that we're going to, and that we're here for the long term. You know, we're not
Right.
just short-term visitors. And I think when you spend 8 months learning a language, you don't just learn the language, you learn about the culture,
Exactly,
you learn
yeah.
about the festivals, you learn about the food, you learn about so much more. And it means that you can hit the ground running. So I can read some of your tweets in Tagalog and inspire
Right.
and understand what...
The humor, yeah, I mean, it's the gateway to the soul of a nation,
It
as my dad would
is.
put it always.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it is actually a really fun language. And Taglish certainly helps as well, right? Because you
Yeah.
can just say, oh, I'm going to mag play or whatever
Right,
and
right.
have a bit of fun with that. But it is a fun language with lots of fun expressions. So I've really enjoyed learning it. Sadly, Richard, I did make a mistake when I got here about
Right.
a year and 8 months ago, because I used to speak pretty well, actually. And then I found that everyone I speak to speaks better Tagalog than it's better English than I do Tagalog.
Right.
So I haven't made an effort to maintain it at the same level. So, and now I've become a little bit shy. So I need to start again. So that's my commitment to you today, that I'll
Right.
start again. Because I've become good at listening, but less confident at speaking. So that needs to change.
Believe me, you're not alone. I'm also working on my Filipino Tagalog.
Oh,
I grew up
really?
with Ilocano, the language of the North. And
Yes.
speaking of the Ilocano, of course, that's where the Marcos has come from,
Yes.
you know, and I think more and more ambassadors now are showing interest also in learning a smattering of Ilocano, which
For
is
sure.
a totally different language. It's not just a dialect, it's a totally
I
different
know.
language. Now, speaking of the Philippines, you are also the ambassador of His Majesty to the Philippines in a very critical juncture. In fact, a very interesting time in Philippine history. I think this is the first time that we have a, how should I put it, an Anglophile president. I don't think we have ever had a president who has had as much exposure, not only to British educational institutions, but to British culture. If I'm not mistaken, President Marcos Jr. is known to be even aficionado of British music, you know. So, I mean,
How does that make you feel? Does that make your portfolio or your obligations more difficult, more intense, more high stakes, or does it make is it more fun to be the ambassador to the Philippines with a president who's also as an Anglophile?
So definitely to your latter question, and on the former, it's neither nor difficult nor challenging.
Right.
It's certainly an opportunity. So it's an opportunity
Right.
that I feel, yes, I've got a responsibility to lean into and to tap into. So undoubtedly the president is very fond of the UK, and that's really exciting for us. But I should say it's not just the president, right? We are very lucky to have the Secretary of Foreign Affairs having been a previous ambassador to the
Right.
UK, the permanent representative of the Philippines at the UN was previously ambassador to the UK and
wow,
currently Ambassador Lagdameo, and of course Teddy Boy Locsin, who was previously Secretary of Foreign Affairs, now ambassador to
Right.
London. So in some pretty key positions you have people who know the UK, to get the UK, and are fond of the UK. So we just need to lean in and maximize that opportunity. And I think it's interesting you mentioned British music.
Right.
The president also loves the West End, so we really want to capitalize
Right.
on that and on
Right.
whether there's more we can do on the soft power performance art side to use the president's interest to show not just the president but also the Filipino public all that we've got to offer in that space as well.
Ambassador Bufis, I mean, maybe this is just me, an outsider looking in, but I just sense President Marcos Jr. has very high level of comfort level with you folks from Britain. I mean, you could see it in his body language. We see your picture, your videos together. From my understanding, he's always excited to see folks from Britain. I think there's something almost sentimental going on there. Did you sense that when you met first time the president after he was victorious in the elections and throughout the years? Did you sense that kind of almost a sentimental conviviality?
I wouldn't say sentimental. I've always found him to be very comfortable and
Right.
at ease. To be honest, I haven't had the opportunity of comparing that with others and other
Right.
countries and ambassadors, but I've certainly found him always to understand where we're coming from, what we've got to offer, and of course he understands the country, our culture, and
Right.
our traditions, as well as understanding our economy and what are the opportunities to work
Correct.
with that economy. So that does certainly present advantages.
Now, the thing is, Britain, of course, is also going through its own transition, right? With the Brexit years behind you, and now you positioning yourself as a global force to reckon with. You're already a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. You have a strong military presence. You have a kind of an Indo-Pacific strategy, of course, in this part of the world. But economically, you're also part of the successor to the TPP. What is the state of bilateral relations with the Philippines overall? And do you feel that now there's a special opportunity to take it to the next level, both on the security and maritime security front especially, and also on the trade and investment front?
Yes, there's undoubtedly an opportunity for us right now, and it's not just the UK. I think lots of countries would say that. There's an opportunity. You mentioned trade. Our trade has never been higher, so we've already recovered from the post-pandemic era. Excuse me. And we're going to be doing more and more. There's no doubt about it in trade terms. You've mentioned CPTPP, which is a huge opportunity for
Right.
us as the UK from a trading perspective, because it's such a huge bloc, but also because it's really the gold standard when it comes to trade. But what we're doing beyond that as well is replacing what was GSP Plus, so the trading scheme that we had when we
With
were
the
members.
European Union, yeah.
Exactly. So we've done a long and thorough consultation when we left the EU
Right.
on what would replace GSP Plus for us. And we've
Right.
just developed a new scheme which will be launched in the Philippines on the 7th of June,
Right.
which is called the DCTS, Developing Country Trading Scheme, which builds on GSP Plus but adds additional product lines, simplifies rules of origin, cuts some of the red tape, so it's even easier to trade
Right.
between our two countries. So I think trade is a really exciting
With
area.
minimal tariff, because that's really what
with
makes
minimal tariffs. So
zero. more or less,
99% of
yeah.
the products in value terms will be able to